Hello, everybody. This is the Women's Eye Podcast. I'm Stacey Gualandi. Thanks for joining us. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to a woman who built something that many believed could not be done because 15 years as a nurse showed her exactly what was needed. Annette Logan-Parker is founder of and chief advocacy and innovation officer for Cure for the Kids, Nevada's only accredited outpatient pediatric cancer and rare disease treatment center. Hi, Annette. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me today. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
I am looking forward to that and also working with you guys on your upcoming Circus Couture Gala in May, which I'm looking sort of circusy, I hope.
Yes,
So
you fit right in.
I'll fit right in. So, well, it's going to be fantastic. We're going to learn more about you, Annette, and if your success is something the rest of the nation could be learning from. But first, this episode is brought to you by Casco Financial Group in Phoenix. Casco president Catherine Scrivano started her business to help people create the financial strength to achieve their dreams. As a career nurse, Annette Logan-Parker saw firsthand how our healthcare system works or doesn't work. But when a medical emergency affected her own son, it became personal. So she took action. 20 years later, her Cure for the Kids Foundation has made a comprehensive shift on the systems and policies that shape how every Nevada child and rare disease patient receives care. She continues to build, but just on a larger stage. Again, so nice to have you, Annette. To have you here, you're a busy woman. So I appreciate that you are here. But that's a fast 20 years, right?
Oh my goodness, Stacey, it flew by. I still can't believe it's been 20 years.
Well, you must have been like 17, 18, I think, when you started it. So, but
Very
uh,
sweet.
but speaking of age, and you were born to be a caregiver, right? I mean, I think this is something that is it's like a friend of mine taking care of her parents. I mean, I think it's just something you're built that way, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. I started in nursing at 15 years old in
Oh,
a certified nursing assistant. So I've kind of grown through all of the ranks of the nursing profession. But, at 15, while all of my friends in the neighborhood were out having fun, I was at CNA school and loving every minute of it. I just kind of knew that I was always supposed to be a nurse. Like, I never remember actually making the decision that I want to be a nurse. I just always knew from a young child that I was supposed to do that.
that's so interesting. So yeah. So every whatever that entails, it's something that you're someone who can just jump right in and handle it. There's no real situation like you don't panic, like
No,
when
no.
it's health related stuff. That's me. But it's something that just really came naturally for you.
It is. Yeah. As a matter of fact, one of the best recommendations and a reference that I ever got from a physician that I worked for was that he said, I remain very calm in incredibly stressful situations. And he said, that's probably my greatest strength. So I
Wow.
remember that from his letter years ago because it meant a lot to me because I do have a tendency to remain very calm in the heat of an emergency. But in all fairness, I do have a tendency to like unravel a little bit afterwards.
I
Just the
know.
adrenaline,
I know. I've watched The Pit. I know. I know how that works. But I mean, that's what's amazing is that you did, as you said, you kind of went all through the ranks. So you have seen the ins and outs of the medical system, the good, the bad, the ugly,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
For you, what were you learning along the way, do you think? How was that in sort of informing who you were and are always as a nurse?
Mhm. It's kind of an interesting paradox because I love caring for people. I'm just wired that way, like we just talked about. And I found over, 15 years of bedside care that I loved the work, I loved the patients, and I loved what healthcare is at its very best. But I watched something happen inside those institutions that I couldn't make peace with. I watched patients treated as line items. I watched care decisions being made on the basis not on what somebody needed, but who was paying for it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I watched colleagues, people who had become healthcare professionals because the same reason I did. Their purpose in life is to care for people and help people, and they were burning out, not because they stopped caring, but because the system stopped kind of valuing them.
And
Uh,
working with you as opposed, it
mhm.
was like working against what you're there for, it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so in my mind, I felt like there was something missing, and I always called it healthcare hospitality, right?
Yeah.
The idea that excellence and genuine human care are not competing priorities. They really, it should be what healthcare is about. And, for the longest time, I didn't see that. And I wasn't often given permission as a nurse to care the way I wanted to care.
Oh. Was that disorienting or disillusioning because you went into this career for a purpose? So
Mhm.
how did you grapple with that?
Well, I think at the time that I was realizing it, I didn't really know what to do about it, to be
Yeah, yeah.
completely honest. I was showing up every day, doing the best that I could, like all of my nurse colleagues and physician colleagues, and we tend to hang in there because the good really does outweigh the bad, but the bad just over time, over a career, it really just kind of erodes your soul, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so what I've learned retrospectively, right now that all these years later, I wasn't just a nurse who became a founder of a program. I was definitely a nurse who was kind of building the concept for a cure for the kids in my mind for years before I even opened the door. Right. So I look at it as almost like boot camp.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you had to go through all of that. Otherwise, Cure for the Kids couldn't really have launched the way that it did and become very successful after
Yeah.
all this time.
Yeah. I had to be intimately aware with the good and the bad. Um, and I think, I really, what shifted my mind was when my son, like you had mentioned in the introduction, you know, 15 years of a nurse, and my son had a catastrophic injury that led to 20 surgeries over 4 years, just extensive complications. And it was kind of a fluke. It really wasn't a rare disease. It was an unusual injury. It was a football injury that led him to have chronic neuropathy of the diaphragm. So he was having real trouble breathing on his own. And so we were told he would be ventilator dependent by the time he was 21.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
said, no,
No.
that's just
Mm-mm.
not an option for us. And so I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And, I found myself on the other side of the bed, really, not as the patient, but as the primary advocate and mother of the patient. And when you're looking through that lens, not as a nurse, you're looking at it through the lens of a mother. And the system that had frustrated me
Yeah.
professionally now
Yeah.
stood between me and the care that my child needed and the outcome that we were willing to accept to be. I mean, and it was one of those where there had to be more. There had to be an option. There must be someone who's studying this type of nerve regeneration. Like I just believed in everything that I had seen so far in healthcare. Someone somewhere had to be working on this. And I wouldn't stop until I
Yeah.
found a physician who would help me look under every rock. And what we found it. And I always like to kind of stop there in the story. My son is 40 years old now. He's healthy. He has a beautiful family. And those lungs that we were told would never sustain life are the same lungs that he used to run into burning buildings as a Clark County firefighter right here in Las Vegas.
It's
And so
incredible.
our
I,
outcome is an amazing story.
but in a situation where had it not been you with years of experience as a nurse, most people would have just had to settle for that diagnosis, right? Or they wouldn't have had the knowledge, or I don't know. I feel like people might have just given up. So what is
Mhm.
great news is about your son, but it's almost that situation happened in order to become an urgent call to action for you, of
Absolutely.
course you would never want that to happen again to your son, but in a weird way,
Mhm.
it's all
It's interesting that you say that, because my entire family, we look back at it now and say, really what a blessing the whole situation was, because it changed all of us, who we are as people, how we see the world. We really, all of us come from this place of gratitude. And so, it's easy to say when you're 25 years opposite the injury, but it was an interesting thing, because like you had mentioned, other families may have given up, and that's kind of what put the kind of fire in my belly, if you
yeah,
will, because
yeah.
we spent hundreds of hours in the hospital. You can imagine 20 surgeries over 4 years, in and out of the hospital for anything and everything you can think of.
And you continued working all during that time as
Mhm.
well? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I met families with childhood cancer diagnoses and rare disease diagnoses, and I found myself, in the waiting room, in the parents' room, handing Kleenex to people who were just receiving bad news, and I just kind of became this almost, my son calls it a vigilante advocate,
Yeah.
right? And so
You're
I'm like,
like,
yeah. And so I just found myself identifying with the experience that these families were going through. Though I didn't have the traditional diagnosis that got these families to that position, I was experiencing the same broken system.
oh,
I
for
was
sure.
experiencing the insurance denials, the formularies that don't cover the drugs that my son needed, the non-approval of research, and I was experiencing the exact same things. But my 15 years of nursing really helped me go, well, I know there's where there's a will, there's a
The
waiver.
way.
That's kind of something that I learned. If you're
What is that?
willing,
Where there's a will, there's
a waiver,
a waiver.
a waiver, right?
I
And
love
so
that. Yeah.
I trained in a military environment as a civilian, and that's something that's pretty common in the military nomenclature,
Yeah.
about where there's a will, there's a waiver. Like, we got to get this done. It's mission critical. We're going to figure it out. So I kind of learned that way as a young nurse as well. And I just thought, well, there's got to be a better way for all of us, because it's not necessarily the diagnosis, it's the system that doesn't have the capacity to really give people in catastrophic, I mean, devastating diagnosis, devastating conditions. The system doesn't know how to shepherd people through. And
Mhm.
that became the foundational concept for Cure for the Kids Foundation. I wanted to create something where all of the amazing things of healthcare, excellence, responsiveness, creativity and drive, married things like access and
Yes.
charity and healthcare hospitality, right? How we treat people matters, especially when they are in the biggest crisis of their life. So from day one, I really designed Cure for the Kids around this healthcare hospitality. And we at Cure for the Kids are inside our own little nomenclature, is we call it the C4K way.
I love that. Yeah.
Right. And it's
And
one of those
this came
things.
right out. This is your brainchild, you know?
Yeah. And this was developed from what I felt what I didn't receive. I didn't receive healthcare hospitality all the time. There were pockets of amazing healthcare hospitality. I mean, I found a physician who went deep into the trenches with me,
Yeah.
who called on Saturday mornings to check on us, who was willing to write the appeal letters and search the world. The technology that saved my son's life actually came from a physician in Sydney, Australia, who had an hypothesis about nerve regeneration. And fast forward, we were able to use a known medical technology in an unusual way, because these physicians said, well, if it works this way,
Yeah.
might
Why
it
can't it?
also work this way? Which is very common in medical research. We discover things and then we go, well, where else is this applicable? Or it didn't quite answer our original question, or it didn't, validate our original hypothesis, but we found all this cool other information in the meantime.
Yeah.
How might that be useful? And so that was incredible. The experience of that also was a core foundational belief at Cure for the Kids, where we're going to look for an answer for every child as an individual. Like, what does this one child and this one family in front of us need from us right
It's
now?
not like it's not like a cookie cutter operation kind of thing.
Mhm.
Everyone has that personal attention. But you know what I'm so curious about in talking about you coming on is just this idea that it's been very successful, obviously, in the state of Nevada. I mean, I think you've helped over 100,000 young people,
Mhm.
and counting, right?
Yeah. Yeah, last year alone, we saw just under 9,000 unique patients walk through our doors in 1 year.
Wow.
So
And
that's
getting to ring the golden bell. I
well,
love that.
all of those patients are not childhood cancer patients. A lot of them are rare disease patients, but we had many, many children ringing the bell, the end of treatment, no more chemo bell. So that's one of my
Fantastic.
favorite days. Such a wonderful celebration.
But what's amazing about this is, and what's unique to this is that here it is in Southern Nevada, but is this something that is it being replicated? Is this something where people around the country are coming to you? And Annette, you did this. How can we copy this in all the other cities
Mhm.
and country or states around the country?
Well, I've had lots of conversations like that. And, what is unique about Cure for the Kids really was that Las Vegas is a unique city,
Yeah.
right? And so, in all of the other pediatric cancer and rare disease arenas around the country, those facilities are generally associated with freestanding children's hospitals or large academic institutions. We didn't have either of those things in Las Vegas at the time. We had, in beginning level medical schools. We did not have an independent freestanding children's hospital, which I'm looking forward to that happening for our city. And so I had kind of a blank canvas. Many people, like you had also said in the introduction, told me it'll never happen. You can't make it sustainable. You can't use philanthropy enough to get out of your own way. And I said, I'm not this isn't a free clinic, right? It's a tax exempt clinic. So we earn our money the old fashioned way through billing and collecting the way everybody else in healthcare does. We use philanthropy to fill the gap between what the system provides and what the people actually need. And so, from day one, our operating expenses are generally from the practice of healthcare. It's just what we do with our excess revenue when we're lucky enough to have some that define the difference, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't go into large academic distribution. It doesn't go to shareholder return on Wall Street. And then we also, because it's a small ecosystem within a big macro system. So we make our own decisions, right? We're not relying on a hospital administrator or a hospital budget to tell us when we can upgrade our equipment, right?
Yeah.
We upgrade our equipment when the equipment needs to
When
be
it needs to be
upgraded.
upgraded. Yeah,
And so,
exactly.
wow, what a concept, right? And so, again, I just was really fortunate. I had this very unique career path that gave me a big understanding about healthcare procurement, drug acquisition, contract negotiation, bedside care. And I also had spent a lot of my life volunteering in nonprofits, from big ones to small ones.
So
So
you
really,
understood
I understood
that
it. And
world.
so I just married the two in a unique way. And, I think where people could really learn from us is, understanding that how we treat people matters, right? And I think because it's also Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is the city of hospitality in
Yes.
a certain arena,
Yeah.
right? With hotels and restaurants and resorts. Boy, we know how to treat people well as a city. And so some of those same concepts, I thought, well, Las Vegas knows how to treat people well. Let's build the infrastructure where we could do that for children with cancer and rare diseases.
That's
So that's
amazing.
kind of the origin story, if you will.
That's fantastic. And then obviously, you've got something that is a smooth running machine. So for you, now you've really amped up the advocacy, right? In terms of your work and reaching out, I suppose on a more, going to the big guys, the big to get this to advance, right? To be able to spread on a wider basis. That's
Mhm.
where is that where your mission is now?
Yes, absolutely. When I appointed a wonderful CEO who's been with me from the very beginning, just over 2 years ago, not because I wanted to step away, but really because I wanted to step up. I
Yeah.
wanted to bring the Cure for the Kids story regionally, nationally, even globally. I am working with a national organization, the Coalition Against Childhood Cancer, as well as a global organization, Childhood Cancer International. So, uh,
You're on the
I'm
world
really,
stage, yeah.
yeah, it has been a lot of fun to kind of be the new guy on a bigger scale. And I really have enjoyed working with insurance companies as well, helping them understand we can do a better job and be fiscally responsible at the same time by working towards programs that decrease the administrative burden of the access for both them and for the caregiver, and really helping to send a message that you can provide high quality medical care, and it's not an or, it's an and,
And
be sustainable and fiscally responsible.
that's fantastic. Did you ever think, though, that this is where you would be?
No, no,
I mean,
not at
what is it
all.
about you that and maybe it just goes back to that early caregiving, this has really become your calling, I would say,
Well, people have always told me I have an unusually high tolerance for risk.
Huh.
So even I can remember even my father when I was a young girl, he would always say, the only thing that scares me about you is that you don't have a normal fear base. Like, climbing trees and doing crazy things and swimming too far out in the ocean. And just, I was always this kind of adventurer. But also, I am a low conformist, right? So I've never really met a rule that I liked or thought was necessary. And so when people
It can be
told me
made better.
it could be better, it could be better, I was always thinking there must be more. There
Yeah.
must be more. There must be more for patients, and there must be a better environment for healthcare professionals. So, I have a double side of that coin. This isn't just about creating a great place for kids who have a devastating diagnosis or prognosis. It's about creating an environment where healthcare professionals can also contribute to the careers in a way that makes sense to them.
Yeah. No, it's amazing too what you've done for the community, but how the community always wants to give back as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to Circus Couture, which is,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that this is the 15th anniversary for this gala. That
Mm-hmm.
is helps to raise those funds that you help to, that you talk about bridging the gap,
Mm-hmm.
between what is there already, but what needs to get us to that point of healthcare hospitality. So tell me about Circus Couture, because I'm excited to be a part of it.
It is such an amazing event. It's always my favorite night of the year. It's beautiful. So, rewind really 17 years ago. We had 2 years off because of COVID. So 17 years ago, some talent from the Cirque du Soleil family in Las Vegas had a devastating diagnosis. And so their community really rallied around their team member. And there was an unfortunate outcome in that situation, but everybody felt the need to give back in some way. And so, we met and we started talking, and we started really, really small. They didn't have any resources. I certainly didn't have any extra resources. So, the first year, I think I don't remember exactly what we raised, but maybe $25,000 over expenses. And we thought, okay, the concept works.
We're
And
onto something.
we're onto something. Yeah. The basis of it is really marrying circus, art, and charity together for our community. And since then, it has grown to be an amazing evening. We have about 350 volunteers to put the event on every year, everything from talent to hair and makeup to carpentry to lighting. And so all of those volunteers from the Cirque du Soleil family come and they put on this event for us.
Wow.
And it's an amazing thing. It's grown and grown and grown. We went from first year where it was basically ticket sales to now we have presenting sponsors and a lot of people contribute to the event. It's a heartwarming event. It is not like I always tell people, it's not your grandmother's gala, right? There's a little bit of flair.
Yes.
You can imagine that the talent.
It's a little saucy.
It's a little saucy. Yes, it definitely can be. And it's also, it's a full 90-minute show. And so, it's amazing. A true entertainment experience. And we really want our donors and the attendees to walk away saying, what a great show. I was so entertained. And I was also moved by the mission and the charity and the things that we do. So we've done a really good job of marrying the fun experience with the moving experience.
And it's something too, because if for some reason somebody doesn't know about Cure for the Kids, but this can kind of be that sort of gateway drug in, this and it's such, just the fashions and the unbelievable creations that become a part of this too, that
the fashion is amazing.
Yes. And it's definitely, I feel very honored to be a part of it because, you're doing amazing, incredible work.
We're so excited that you'll be emceeing the event this year.
Yay!
Yay!
I know. So I know I won't wear an elephant costume or anything like that though, but
well, the theme is Beyond Tomorrow.
Yes.
So there's a storyline associated with it. So, think of if George Jetson was going to the best charity event, what would they wear, right? So
yes, a few autonomous vehicles.
Yeah.
I know it'll be there. So It's fantastic. And this is all because of you. Your vision, but I know it takes the village. But I guess if you were to, I don't know, tell a woman right now who wants to do something similar or has an idea that everyone said, no, can't be done. What would you say to that person?
I would definitely say, if your idea comes from a real place, like your passion and your purpose, from something you saw, something you lived, something you couldn't accept, right? Generally entrepreneurs start something because they want to give something to the world, right?
Yes.
Then I feel like if it comes from a real place, it's already more powerful than anything that anyone could ever say. Just because someone says it can't be done doesn't mean it can't be done, right? I would say
that person doesn't have vision.
Yeah, they might be right, and do it anyway. Do it anyway. If it brings you joy, and it
could take you in a whole different direction that you weren't even expecting to. So,
absolutely. Yeah. So, I kind of am one of those, feel the fear and do it anyway. Right? If it's important enough to you as a woman.
I think that's amazing. Yeah. I love that. Say that again. It's the feel the fear and do it anyway. Yeah.
Because, and it's not going to be easy, but man, is it going to be meaningful, and it can be incredibly fun.
Yeah. I just wrote that down. I'm going to be quoting you a lot. So is there a particular call to action though? Because, for maybe somebody who is going through some sort of a medical crisis or, what's the call to action for people right now, both going through something or maybe know somebody who is going through something?
What I've always told people is ask questions until you are happy with the answer, right?
Okay.
And happy doesn't mean it's always going to be a positive outcome, but you are happy with the effort, you're happy with how you're being treated, good or bad outcome. People deserve to be created with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
And people need to demand that from their healthcare system. And ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. I tell every parent that walks through our doors, never stop asking us questions.
Yeah.
It's
That
our
is
job
so
to, it's our job to get you answers.
Yeah. And that's so funny because that just happened recently where, went to the doctor with my mom and I was asking questions and my family tends to say, you ask too many questions. But I'm like, I need to know. And I didn't make that doctor very happy, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and, remind the doctor that, a well-informed patient is an easier patient to manage. They understand why they should be taking their medication and how they should be taking it. Patients and patient families are the most important part of the medical team.
Wow. Yeah.
And in full transparency, if your physicians don't feel that way, go find a new
Go
physician.
find another one. Yep. Get a
Because
second opinion.
the massive majority of healthcare professionals believe that to be true.
Yeah. Wow. It's amazing. Unbelievable. But, well, Annette, I think I'm so excited where the direction you're going in because you're continuing to make a difference. Yeah, because your work's never done, right?
No, that's one thing I can tell you. It's never done. I really did think that by appointing a CEO, I would have a different, I've never really liked the term work-life balance because if you love what you're doing, you're really not working. And
Right.
that's kind of how I feel right now. I'm doing more than I've ever done. I'm not responsible for the day-to-day clinical operations anymore.
Right.
I'm an advisor and an advocate and my team's biggest cheerleader. And yet, I'm opening all of these other conversations that are just leading to more conversations and more meetings and more ideas. And so, like when I said I definitely didn't step down, I stepped up and I'm enjoying it.
That's fantastic. And that's a great way to put it because you've got something in motion here now that frees you up to continue the good work.
Absolutely. And it's an honor to do it.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much, Annette, for sharing your story, all of it, personal. It's just incredible. And I can't wait to see you May 7th.
I'm looking forward to it as well. It's going to be a great night. You're going to have so much fun. You're going to say, can I do this every year?
I know. You guys are going to get sick of me.
No, we'll never get sick of you. Well, thank you. It was such an honor to spend some time with you. And
absolutely. And just whatever I can do to spread the word. And of course, if any of you listening, watching would like to know more about Annette and Cure for the Kids, Circus Couture, all of it, just visit thewomenseye.com. You can also find our books, 20 Women Changemakers and 20 Women Storytellers. Just click on thewomenseye.com/books. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and YouTube channel. And that's where you will see Annette Logan-Parker. Again, thank you, Annette. I don't know how you do it, but I'm so glad that you do. So
thank you, Stacey. It was an honor.
Thank you. We'll meet us back here again soon on the Women's Eye podcast. I'm Stacey Gualandi. Remember, it's the world as we see it.